These cheesy spirals are the newest Cheetos to spring into stores. The Frito-Lay factory in Frankfort, Indiana proves it ain't easy being cheesy. They make Cheetos 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. Cheetos have come a long way since Charles Doolin, an innovative candy maker, started experimenting with corn chips. He invented Cheetos back in 1948. Little did he know, 60 years later, those crunchy, cheesy snacks would bring in over $1 billion every year.
We actually sell 250 million pounds of Cheetos every year and over 1 billion bags of Cheetos every year.
And can you believe it only takes 10 people to make 3,000 pounds of Cheetos an hour? The rest is done by machine. Stored in silos outside the plant, cornmeal feeds into an extruder, which squeezes the dough out into twisty tubes.
In the extruder, we're applying the heat and pressure to cause the cornmeal to expand. It's twisting as it is being extruded out and cut into that shape.
These crunchy coils of cornmeal aren't called Cheetos quite yet. In the early stages, it is called a cullet.
The cullet, that is the shape and the form that a Cheeto takes as it's coming out of the extruder.
After they're cut to their springy size, they ride up a towering conveyor belt into a massive oven. Regular Cheetos are fried, but twisted Cheetos are baked. After a few minutes in the oven, it's time to shake things up. A vibrating conveyor belt makes sure that Cheetos don't stick together as the curly cues bounce on down to get a coating of cheese.
We use aged cheddar cheese to make Cheetos, or what we call mellow cheddar. And in fact, we use 12 million pounds of cheddar cheese annually to make Cheetos.
Toss in some salt and the cheese coating is almost ready. This cheesy seasoning is the special formula that put Cheetos on the map.
I think what people love the most about Cheetos is that finger-licking cheesy crunch. I mean, who hasn't had a great time licking the cheese off of their fingers? People may not know that the cheese residue that's left over on your hands after you eat Cheetos actually has a name. It's called Cheetle.
Cheetle? Now there's something I didn't know. The machine that applies the cheesy coating is top secret. But when these Cheetos make their grand appearance wearing that famous bright orange coat, they take one final ride.
And we equilibrate it for a period of a couple minutes. Equilibrate is when the temperature and the cheese content has a chance to become consistent over the cullet or the Cheeto itself.
From start to finish, it only takes 15 minutes to make a batch of Cheetos. After they jiggle and bounce along this belt, they fall onto a scale and drop into bags featuring that crazy cat, one of America's top 5 most recognizable food characters.
Chester the Cheetah is the official spokescat for Cheetos. He's silly, playful, and he's really super cool. Unless, of course, he runs out of Cheetos, and then he's just crazy to get his paws on some more Cheetos.
And get this, Chester was designed in 1987 by the same graphic artist who designed the Pink Panther. But Cheetos appeal to more than just kids.
60% of our consumers are adults. And I think the reason for that is the experience of eating Cheetos is so ageless.
They're even popular in Japan, where, check this out, they make strawberry-covered Cheetos and chocolate-covered Cheetos. The Kellogg factory in Battle Creek, Michigan churns out over 200 million pounds of Cheez-Its every year.
In 1 year, we produce enough Cheez-Its, if we put them end to end, we could travel to the moon and back 3 times.
Since the very first Cheez-It was made back in 1921, the 1-inch by 1-inch cheddar square hasn't changed much. They start with a basic flour dough. But do you know the secret ingredient in a Cheez-It?
One of the unique ingredients that Cheez-It does use that most consumers don't know is paprika, which really helps give it a nice bold flavor.
Now, bring on the main ingredient, and lots of it.
The cheese comes in blocks of around 500 pounds. We use almost 30 million pounds of cheese every year.
Like a Play-Doh pumper, an extruder squeezes out small spirals of cheese. The cheese is a combination of cheddar and skim milk cheese.
We utilize 23 million pounds of skim milk cheese every year, which is equivalent to having 15,000 cows milked a day.
Next, an industrial mixer blends the ingredients for 14 minutes. Then, the batch joins other bins of dough inside a proofing room. This is where the dough ferments for 24 hours to let the flavors develop. After a 24-hour rest, rollers flatten the cracker dough into thin sheets.
Those sheets are cut into sections, and this gives the pastry texture, which gives the finished product a crisp but tender bite.
Like a ginormous studded stamp, a huge roller imprints the Cheez-It pattern onto the dough in one continuous motion. Then, like tiny snowflakes, a salt storm dusts the dough. But the Cheez-Its are not individual crackers just yet. After the dose of salt, they ride a conveyor belt into an oven. And this is no average oven.
Cheez-It is baked on an oven that's over a football field long, so over 300 feet long oven. After that, the dancing part of Cheez-It, we use a unique process to break it from a sheet into our 1x1 squares.
Talk about good vibrations. These happy little crackers dance around, up, over, and down to packaging.
There are over 240 Cheez-Its in each box, and we actually produce over 12.5 million Cheez-Its every hour.
That adds up to 80 billion crackers a year. That's a whole lot of cheese. And speaking of holes, there's still one hole left in this story. And that's the story behind that tiny little hole in the middle of every Cheez-It. Ever wonder why it's there? Well, there's a reason for it.
That is called a Docker hole. And the hole is used in part of our manufacturing process to release air and pressure while we're baking.
Now you know the secrets behind a cracker that is the champ of cheese.
I think it's a perfect standalone comfort food. You can make an entire meal out of just macaroni and cheese. Most of us would eat it almost every day.
Reese's started in the 50s as a mom-and-pop store selling a great recipe for potato salad. But now they're also known for their delicious mac and cheese. Today, Reese's makes 14 varieties of mac and cheese, and they use all different types of cheeses.
We use a large variety of cheeses. We use everything from white cheddar, white extra sharp cheddar, medium yellow cheddar, and American, to some of the more exotic cheeses like Gruyere.
Their most popular dish is good old-fashioned elbow macaroni noodles with cheddar cheese sauce. For that, they start by making the sauce. They dump giant 40-pound blocks of cheddar cheese into a liquefier.
We add approximately 500 pounds of cheese, 900 pounds of milk, and some seasonings and water, and blend it all up to make the perfect cheese sauce.
The seasonings vary depending on the recipe they're cooking up. They blend it, then send it over to a kettle to slowly heat up.
It goes into the kettle. It goes in at about 2,000 pounds at a time, gets heated slowly and very gently stirred so that it won't stick to the sides of the kettle, just like you would do with a pot at home.
All that's missing is the mac. In another part of the factory, they're making the perfect al dente noodles.
Reese's only uses a special macaroni for our macaroni and cheese. It's a macaroni that we've designed especially to hold up to the cooking process.
Each batch starts with 1,300 pounds of macaroni, enough to fill a car. The pasta rides a conveyor belt to the cooker. Just like at home, the noodles cook for about 15 minutes at 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Just exactly as it is perfectly cooked and hot, it comes off the belt and the belt shakes it to get the extra water off.
Now it's time for the mac to meet the cheese. The macaroni drops into a tote filled with cheese sauce and gets stirred up by hand.
Macaroni and cheese is a surprisingly delicate dish. Macaroni that's beaten very hard by a mechanical stirrer might break apart. Macaroni that's gently tossed with cheese sauce will keep its integrity all the way through the packaging process.
And once the cheese blends with the mac,
At that moment, we now pronounce you macaroni and cheese.
the newlyweds then head off for cooling and packaging. At Reese's, they dish out 20,000 bowls of mac and cheese every hour. The special plastic tray allows the mac and cheese to cool down quickly.
Reese's makes 68,000 pounds of macaroni and cheese a day, 2 million pounds in a month, and 25 million pounds in a year. That's a lot of macaroni.
Ah, that ooey gooey bright orange sauce we love to smother over everything from chips to chili dogs. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know Gale's nacho cheese.
Gale's has been around since 1896. Early on in its years, we were a dairy and a creamery, just delivering regular milk and ice cream, and gradually moved into cheese sauces.
Anybody have any chips?
Andy Gale is a fourth-generation cheesehead and president at Gale's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Here, his cheese sauce people have been making the stuff since the 70s.
There are a few companies that can do what we do, and that is taking cheese sauce and making it shelf stable.
We're talking a shelf life of 12 months using, get this, real cheese, and lots of it.
We typically use 3 to 6 month aged cheddar in our cheese sauce. Obviously, always Wisconsin cheddar, being a Wisconsin company.
For one 150,000-pound batch of sauce, a shredding machine grinds 2,000 pounds of cheese. It takes a quick trip down a cistern and mixes with hot water, cheese whey, oil, and starches. Once it reaches that creamy texture, the sauce is sterilized with heat, but not before chilling out in some really big silos.
This is one of 25 refrigerated silos here at Gale's. Each silo holds 350,000 pounds. They're 4 stories high and about 14 feet in diameter.
You need that much space when you're making 500,000 pounds of sauce a day, not to mention a year.
We produce enough cheese sauce in a year to fill 74 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Thankfully, nobody here is swimming in the cheese sauce.
But nacho cheese wasn't always this popular. In fact, in the 80s, many stadium vendors stopped selling it.
People were dispensing cheese sauce out of number 10 cans using a cheese sauce pump. It was also difficult to clean. When Gale's put cheese sauce into a bag, we were able to eliminate those sanitary issues.
That's right, an airtight, sterile bag with a handy little dispenser changed cheese history forever.
All you have to do is push the button, and cheese sauce comes out fast and hot.
It's a booming business now. Just check out the Gale's 1 million square foot warehouse. More than 30 years in the making,
Here's the chips.
people just can't seem to get enough of the gooey goodness. This is the kind of mozzarella we're all used to seeing. It's hard mozzarella with a little flavor and a long shelf life. But have you ever had the other version that's fresh, soft, and creamy? No one knows fresh cheese better than Paula Lambert, an author and, can we say, cheese whiz?
I'm the author of the Cheese Lover's Cookbook, and my new book is called Cheese Glorious Cheese.
And her obsession started with the white stuff.
If you've never tasted fresh mozzarella, you'll be surprised that it's so soft, and it's just a taste sensation that you won't believe.
In fact, Paula likes fresh mozzarella so much, she started her own company based in Dallas back in 1982. Surprisingly, mozzarella is easy to make.
From the beginning to the end, it takes about 8 hours.
It all starts in a sparkling clean room where the fresh cow's milk is pasteurized. It takes 1 gallon of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. Then they add a vegetable extract called rennet.
Rennet is an enzyme that helps coagulate the milk, which turns it into curds, and then the whey separates out.
These are the curds that form after a few hours. It's already edible, but there's more to the process. They chop the curds into smaller pieces, then pour hot water over it to string it. Then they squeeze the round hunks of cheese into half-pound balls and smooth them over. A toss into a cold water bath firms up the cheese. And now, it's ready for packaging. Mosco turns out 8,000 pounds of mozzarella a month. That's 100,000 pounds every year. You can usually find fresh mozzarella in Italian delis and sometimes even your own supermarket. What's mild, yellow, and has a whole lot of holes? It's Swiss cheese, that foreign favorite that, thanks to Swiss settlers, made its way to the Midwest in the mid-1800s.
They imported brown Swiss cows from Switzerland and from Pennsylvania. And in the next 4 or 5 decades, the Swiss cheese industry boomed in this area.
Today, the Swiss colony in Monroe, Wisconsin is packaging 380,000 pounds of Swiss cheese each year. This process gets moving just across the state border at Springbrook Dairy in Stevenson County, Illinois.
Swiss cheese is made first of all from cow's milk.
Here the milk is collected and transported to the cheese factory where it pasteurizes and then pours into 16,000-pound vats. Next, cans of starter culture or good bacteria pour into the vat, setting the stage for a holy experience.
Swiss cheese has holes in it because the starter culture organisms that are added to the milk in the early stages of cheese making have a starter culture bacteria called propionibacteria that produce gas in those later stages of cheese making, and these give off gas and form the bubbles or pockets within the curd mass.
The mixture heats to 120 degrees and then pumps to a molding vat. Weights are set inside the vat, pressing down the solid curds and leaving behind a liquid called whey.
The curd mass is then allowed to sit under the weight for a period of about 18 to 24 hours. At that time, they're cut into blocks and transferred over to the salt brine.
The brine, a combination of water and salt, hardens the outer surface of the cheese, forming a protective barrier. After about 24 hours, the 97-pound blocks go from the brine bath to a shower. Then it's off to get a vacuum package. And because of this packaging, the cheesemakers don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Many times, manufacturers of wheel Swiss will wax the outside of the cheese, and that's done primarily to prevent any spoilage by molds. That same function is achieved with the vacuum package film.
Next, the Swiss stores in a warm room where the bacteria bubbles up.
In this warm room, the starter culture bacteria that's responsible for gas production kick it into high gear and actually start to develop a lot of air pockets within that cheese.
Air pockets turn into eyes, and eye size is critical. So cheesemakers use a special tool called a trier to pull a sample from the block.
A lot of delis prefer the large eyes, which are probably a quarter size or better, just because of the eye appeal. Many people who use the Swiss cheese for exact weight cuts, like the Swiss colony does, select smaller eyes depending on the size of our finished cut.
Next, the small-eyed Swiss moves to the colony's cheese operations. Here, huge slabs whittle down to 13-ounce pieces. And holy cow! It can take an utterly big amount of milk to make a small sum of Swiss.
It takes about 8.6 pounds of milk to produce 1 pound of Swiss cheese.
But does the milk for this cheese have to come from a Swiss cow?
Brown Swiss cows do give milk with a higher fat and higher protein content, and therefore the yield is better, but Swiss cheese can be made from any milk, whether it be Holstein or Jersey cows.
If you're heading north on Interstate 94 in the Midwest, you'll cross the cheese line separating Illinois and Wisconsin. Not far from there is a destination that's cheesy come, cheesy go.
There's plenty of samples for all of you, and today as a special we took all the calories out.
In Kenosha, Wisconsin, cheese is king at the Mars Cheese Castle. In fact, with 20,000 square feet of retail, it's the largest cheese market in the state.
We have a beautiful selection of cheeses, around 300, 350 cheeses at any given time. About 50 to 60 of them are from overseas.
Swiss swirl, what does it taste like?
I'll give you a sample.
Good.
And they want their 250,000 yearly visitors to try them all.
People generally don't know cheese. You know, the vast American majority, they go to the supermarket, they find a piece of cheese, it's mild American or something like that because the kids like it, and that's what they'll buy.
That's good.
Variety is the spice of this cheese shop, which opened in 1947 and is named for the man who would be king of cheese.
My name is Mario, and they called me Mars when I was a youngster.
The castle part comes from Mario Sr.'s appreciation of royal cheesemakers in Europe. But in this corner of the world, the majority of cheeses are local and loco. There's cheese in the shape of cows, beer mugs, and state lines. And while fun shapes get customers to try new things, Mars's most popular staple, called a cheese curd, has no shape at all.
Cheese curd is the unsalted, unpressed cheese before it becomes the final product of cheese. It doesn't have as much salt and it doesn't have as much moisture, so it becomes a firmer, drier product.
And for dessert, one of their most popular sellers has a cocoa connection.
People come to Wisconsin just to buy this chocolate cheese. And what it is the whey of Swiss cheese, and they put cocoa powder in it, and they sometimes add walnuts like we have here. And it's so good, it actually tastes like fudge.
And when it comes to orange cheese, well, there's a secret behind that shade.
All cheese is white, basically, or cream colored. Back in the 1800s, when they started making cheese here, they would add beta-carotene or colored carrot juice to make the cheese colored because it seemed to be more appetizing to people.
No matter what shade, Mars sells over 75,000 pounds of cheese each year. This means the cows are working overtime because it takes 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. And as long as cheese isn't exposed to direct sun, it's ready for the road.
We tell people you can carry cheese across the country with you if you're driving. It's a fallacy to say you need a lot of refrigeration.
When you think of cheese, the colors orange and white come to mind, but what about blue? Tangy and pungent, blue cheese is commonly used as a dressing, for dipping, or topping salad and steak. So where does blue cheese really come from? If you guessed blue cows, you'd be wrong.
To make blue cheese blue, you add a mold powder to it.
You heard right, mold. It's actually Roquefort penicillin, a friendly mold that makes cheese lovers say, cheese. This recipe didn't just come out of the blue. It was a joint effort back in the 40s between scientists at Iowa State University and businessman Fred Maytag. Fred ran the famous Maytag washing machine company, but his thoughts turned to cheese when he inherited a dairy.
My grandfather, Fred Maytag, thought it would be interesting to see if he could make a really flavorful, rich, worldly cheese from the milk that the Holstein cattle were producing.
Up until then, blue cheese was made in Europe with sheep's milk.
It was revolutionary that they made blue cheese in Iowa, and it was revolutionary that they made cow's milk blue cheese in Iowa in 1941.
Almost 70 years later, they used the same recipe in the same central Iowa factory. They begin with fresh raw milk trucked in from neighboring Iowa dairy farms. 9,000 pounds of milk pour into huge vats. They warm the milk and then add cultures and an enzyme called rennet to thicken it. Workers run paddles up and down the entire length of the vat to blend the ingredients. Each vat will eventually make up to 200 wheels of blue cheese. After 30 minutes, the milk is firmed up. Now, it's time to cut the cheese. They drag a wire cutting tool called a harp through the mix to help separate the cheese curds from the whey.
Just like Little Miss Muffet eating her curds and whey.
The whey is a watery substance left over from the milk. As they cut the cubes, the curds float to the top.
Curds in the early stages are real soft and fragile, so they're gently stirred, and they begin to firm up or toughen up as the process goes on.
Next, they scoop out the curds into cheesecloth and add the ingredient that will give the cheese its blue streak, mold powder. Next, the cheesemakers pile the curds into cylinders called hoops.
Try to make them roughly about 5 pounds apiece.
The individual curds inside each hoop will eventually become one wheel of cheese.
We rotate the cheese once every hour to make sure it's not sticking and just to keep the shape of the cheese.
Here they spin and press the cheese until each wheel condenses from 8 inches down to 3.5.
We make 5 batches of cheese each day, and each batch is about 220 wheels. We're selling all of that each year.
Next up, check out how they make the cheese grow a blue streak.
We have stainless steel needles that come through and punch on each side of the wheel.
Mold needs air to blossom, so each wheel is aerated with 144 pinpricks. In the early years, this was done by hand with an ice pick. And did you know that in order for blue cheese to ripen, it sits in a cave? These Maytag cheese wheels hang out below ground for 6 months. The moisture helps the mold spread, and the longer they're down here, the moldier it gets.
This has only been in here for a couple of days. This has been in here about 3 weeks. Here, this is some of the oldest.
Along the way, the cheese gets a wax coating so it won't dry out. Before it heads to market, the wax is sliced away and the cheese gets a trim.
Everything is done by hand. All of us wrap by hand. And then you have this wonderful Maytag blue cheese product.
And there you have it. These blue cheese big wheels are ready to roll.